once we get that right, which is for me the most important thing, that they have, first of all, respect. The second one is commitment. The third one, passion. Those three ingredients are non-negotiable.
Hello and welcome into the Non-Negotiables podcast. It's Sunday, the day after we gave Saudi Arabia the absolute dicking they deserved. Really fantastic team performance last night. First half was as good of a performance as I've ever seen, I think. And I've been watching football a long time. I've had front row seats to some of the best teams in Premier League history. Well, I guess 6th row seats really, because I was 6 rows back in the clock end. But the point stands, I've watched some great teams, and that was as good a 45 minutes as I've seen from any of them. If we'd have gone in 6-0 up, there's no way they could have had any complaints. To a man, we were head and shoulders above them, the pressing, the harrying from the front. It was just amazing to watch. On a rare occasion, they did get out. Gabriel or Saliba just brought the ball down, and back we went at them again. It was a really complete first half performance. It's been a great start to 2024 in the league. We've won 6 straight, an Arsenal record to start a calendar year. Saka's now scored in 5 straight games, the first Englishman to do that for the Arsenal since Ian Wright in 1994. We've become the first team in Premier League history to score 2+ goals in 7 consecutive halves of football. Now that's a bit of an American made-up stat for you, but it does show just how dominant we've been since the turn of the year. So what's changed since New Year's Eve? I mean, can we put everything down to the magical yacht trips in Dubai? Is it all down to Salt Bay, sprinkling some magic salt over everything? I think there's probably some more tangible reasons than just Salt Bay sprinkling his magic dust everywhere. Firstly, I think our 2 best players have just hit peak form. Odegaard and Saka, both of them were carrying injuries for the start of the season. Odegaard had the hip problem and the concussion. Saka had the Achilles problem, and it was clear that it was limiting them a little bit. And I think that the rest has reinvigorated them, and they just look absolutely top form at the minute. They're playing with freedom. They're playing with belief. I think that's a huge thing. Secondly, Kai Havertz has emerged. The tentative player we saw in November that was hiding from the ball, that player's gone. His place is a giant runner that plays the game so intelligently. The way he runs, where he runs, when he runs. I've said before with Kai, I don't think we really understood what we were buying. We thought we were getting this silky smooth technical player, and that's just not what he is. He's a runner. He's an off-the-ball monster. He's a high IQ tactical master. He allows us to play about 6 different ways. He can play multiple positions. And he'll play them not just in the same game, but sometimes in the same move. You remember when Thomas Müller came through for Germany and Bayern Munich, and we really didn't know what he was. He was so important to them, and you couldn't figure out why. And that's kind of when we first started hearing the term Raumdeuter. That's kind of what Havertz is, right? He's a Raumdeuter, but he's a Raumdeuter on the interior, not the exterior. He understands and exploits space as well as anyone I've ever seen. For anyone as old as me, old enough to remember football in the early 90s, he's basically David Platt, but a physical monster with it. At the back, it's almost impossible to get a shot off against us. Basically, it takes an individual error for them to even get an effort in. If they get a chance, it's because one of our defenders has fallen over, has slipped, has given the ball away on the edge of the box. It starts from the front because of the way we defend and the way we press. But I think special praise needs to be given to Gabriel here, who I think has been the best defender in the league by a country mile this season. And lastly, I think we've got to give some praise to David Raya. Now, we all know what David Raya isn't, right? He's not 6'4". He's not the world's greatest shot stopper. He's not going to win you points with a string of spectacular saves. He's never going to give you the performances that Ramsdale gave you at White Hart Lane last season, at Anfield last season. And he's not as lovable immediately as Aaron Ramsdale is. You know, Aaron Ramsdale came in straight away. He's got a rapport with a crowd, and we all love him. Everybody loves Aaron Ramsdale. But I think you have to acknowledge what Raya is. He's a playmaking goalkeeper that starts high. He has a really good starting position. He claims high balls, despite the fact that he's not 6'4". He doesn't get scared into surrendering possession when he gets pressed. He's not worried about coming for balls. He's not worried about making mistakes. He's brave, and again, he's got an incredibly high football IQ. I think that's a theme that's easily identifiable in this Arsenal squad. It's identifiable in every transfer that Arteta makes. All of his signings are incredibly intelligent players who are able to switch and change at a minute's notice on the pitch. That all mixed in together basically restricts the way the opposition can create space and can have shots against us. And you can't argue against it. It's there for everybody to see. And with that said, lastly, and this is possibly the biggest bit of credit, has got to go to the boss. This team's got a tactical flexibility that I've not seen before. I know Pep's side switch around and they'll change a couple of formations in a game, but we'll play 5.5 and no one misses a beat. Everybody knows exactly what they're doing. It's so seamless, you don't even notice it until you watch it back. Now, I don't know if we win either of the two big prizes this year, but I really hope we do, because I think we deserve it, the players deserve it, the manager deserves it. And after that atmosphere again last night, I think the fans deserve it. And that hasn't always been the case for Arsenal fans. I think there's been times where our atmosphere has been poor. A couple of years ago, people weren't even showing up. And that's possibly the biggest feather of all in Mikel Arteta's cap, is the way he's brought everybody on the journey with him. All the fans are on the journey with this team. And it's made it about us, not just about them. Last year I said that it was a ride that we had to enjoy regardless of where it went, right? It was a phenomenally enjoyable season with moments like the last minute winners against Man United and against Bournemouth. Like those things, you have to cherish them moments regardless of where it ended. It was still an amazing ride. And I think that point still stands. What we're experiencing right now is special and it should be enjoyed. It should be appreciated. It should be savoured. It won't always be this good. We've all been there. I've been very lucky in my Arsenal supporting life, right? I've had season tickets for 5 league titles. Not many people are going to get to say that as supporters of any club. But there's been bad times and there will be bad times again. So you've got to enjoy this while it happens. Right, enough of the stoppy stuff. Let's get on to the game last night and everything that went on. So it's a night game under the lights at the carpet. The opposition represent the forces of evil. There's a lingering feeling of injustice from the robbery at St James's Park earlier in the season. All the elements are there. When the lineup was announced, Jorginho in for Trossard, I wasn't surprised. I thought that would be the change. I'll admit that I thought it should have been Emil Smith-Rowe coming in, which turns out that that's why Mikel's the manager and not me. It's more than just that he's got much better hair than I have. But I was fine with it. You know, I'm pretty comfortable with the team that Arteta puts out. There's not a whole lot of room at the minute to rotate, but it's good with me. I trust these players. I trust that Arteta's going to get the best out of them. And I thought, you know, when I saw the lineup, even with Isaac back in their lineup, I thought we should be winning this game pretty comfortable. I look at our centre-half pairing in Gabriel and Saliba, and I know Gabriel is going to win everything in the air. He's so powerful. You're not going to outmuscle him. And then if the ball does get past him, Saliba's mopping up behind. So, you know, I was pretty confident that we were going to win this game. The only little concern was at the very start, I saw Jorginho drop into the single pivot and Decker's move into the 8. And that was kind of the opposite, flipped from the Liverpool game. But there was obviously a rationale for that, right? Like, I didn't think it was the right move, but then I wasn't expecting us to be quite as dominant as we were. And I thought Newcastle, with Miley and with Guimaraes in midfield, might actually get around us a bit. But they didn't. They just allowed him to play. And once again, Arteta's read the tea leaves, and he's come up with an absolutely perfect plan. So we started on fire. We had a couple of corners inside the first 2 minutes, and that was it. The tone was set. The only downside was the booking for Ødegaard. It was actually Ødegaard that gave the ball away in the first place, trying to find Martinelli, and he chased back. There was a clever little flick from Trippier inside to Almiron, and Almiron went to burst clear, and Odegaard knew exactly what he was doing. He just took him out. It's a yellow, absolutely no complaints. But when the leader of your press gets a yellow card inside 7 minutes, you do wonder about where it's going to go. We've seen it before this season when he got an early yellow card, and all of a sudden it becomes really, really scary when he's tearing into people and closing down because he can't make contact. It's so difficult to play the rest of the game when you are the one that's basically starting the press all the time and you're the one doing most of the hassle and harrying. It's really hard to do that when you're on a yellow card for all that time. Luckily, them fears didn't get to fruition. And I think the biggest surprise was that the goal took 17 minutes to come. We love a corner, and Saka's delivery in that first half, I thought was brilliant. You know, the corner delivery, we're getting a lot of praise for our set pieces, and rightly so. But I think the delivery is as important as the position of the players and the actual routines. The way Saka swings the ball in and hits the right spots all the time, it's fantastic. And this was an in-swinger. It's met by Gabriel. It was actually a really good save by Karius. I think when people saw Karius' name on the team sheet, you're thinking, yes, here we go. But Karius was actually probably their best player on the night. And he actually makes a really good save from this. And the ball bounces around in there, and it eventually Miley clears it onto Botman's knee, and it goes back in and over the line. Originally, I thought it was over from the initial header, but it wasn't. It came off Botman's knee. So it is technically an own goal. Gabriel's caused it, and it's a real shame for my fantasy team that I don't get the double assist points for my Saka captain and my Gabriel points for the goal. And it's a shame from Gabriel's point of view that it isn't his goal, but it wasn't, and you can't argue about that. Funnily enough, it wasn't as far over the line as the ball that Joe Willett grabbed back in at St James's Park, but this time the referee's watch vibrated and bang, we're in front. So it took us 7 minutes to double it. We had an absolute stranglehold on the game. The runs in behind from Havertz, Martinelli, Saka, and even Ben White at one point were destroying them. They just couldn't track the runners. You could see it coming, and this was about the millionth clearance in a row from Newcastle. Falls to Saliba. He brings it down, plays it to Jorginho. Jorginho's got all the time in the world, looks up. Martinelli's making a run across the box. He clips a brilliant ball over the top. Martinelli brings it down, gets to the byline, clips it back, and whacker, hey, there's Kai Havertz, scores again. So that's 2-0, and it's pretty much done at this point. I mean, we are rampant. A couple of minutes later, it's almost 3. It's a brilliant move. Odegaard with a brilliant back heel in the box. Saka takes it to the byline, clips it back right-footed. Martinelli's coming storming in, and it was just a little bit too high, and he just couldn't get it down. It goes over the bar. And in the end, Newcastle were just grateful to hear that half-time whistle right and go in at 2 down. I thought our performance just deserved so much more than that. If we'd have gone in, like I said earlier, at 6, they couldn't possibly have complained. And then the second half starts, and it starts exactly the same as the first half was going. Saka plays Kai Havertz through. Havertz is definitely onside, and let's be fair, he should score. You know, as well as he's playing at the minute, the end product is still a little bit of an issue. And I suppose that's a good thing because, you know, when we're playing this well, you want to know that there's places you can go to, right? Because usually you think, Christ, when you're playing like this, the only way's down. But I do think there's improvements that can actually be made here. In a closer game, I'd be a bit more concerned about these misses. But fortunately for us at the minute, there aren't many close games. But Kai's clean through and he screws his shot wide. And it's a real shame because I think he deserved more than just one goal on the night as well. It then kind of went a little bit dead. We kind of just sat back, taking it easy a little bit. And Newcastle managed their first shot on the hour. Isaac cutting inside Ben White and firing over. And I think that might have just pissed us off a little bit and really spurred us into life because it was about 3 minutes after that. Havertz and Odegaard closed down on the halfway line. Havertz gets in the way of the ball. He gets it under control, gives it to Odegaard, onto Rice, back to Havertz, lays it to Saka, cuts inside, bang, 3-0. And that's it at that point. You know, if it wasn't over at 2-0, it certainly is at 3. Now that's 5 games in a row Saka's scored in. That's the first Arsenal player to do that since Giroud almost a decade ago. That's 13 in the Premier League so far this season, and we need him to break 20. We need him to probably get closer to 25, right? He's got 13, there's 12 games to go. I think we need 10 goals from him in these last 12 games. I think he's got to break 20 for us this season, and I think he should be doing that every season from now on in. You can see he's got it in him. So I think that should be his aim. We basically carry on from exactly that point, and within 3 minutes, it's 4-0. It's another corner. This time it's from the other side. These corners from Deckers, man, that's not something that I saw coming. His delivery is top class. And I think we said before that everyone says the biggest strength for Declan Rice is to know what isn't a strength in his game and work on it. And we're seeing in 7 months a different player to the one we signed. He's already added some round the corner passes that he never had before. I think his positional play is getting stronger and stronger. And now these corners, like I don't even know where these came from. It's a flat delivery that whips in, and they're almost impossible to deal with. And he whips this ball into the front post. Kiwior gets his head on it. It takes a deflection, but it is going in, or certainly going on target. So it's Kiwior's goal, and it's 4-0, and that is, it's everything that we've deserved. We should be absolutely smashing teams like this, and at the minute, that's exactly what we're doing. Newcastle got a consolation goal late on. I don't think Reece Nelson's going to be particularly happy with this when he sees it back, because there was a real lack of effort to get back in. And for a side that defends clean sheets with their lives, I think there'll be some disappointed people when they look back at this. But it was a great run and a good header from Joe Willock. And I like Joe Willock, man. He's a good little player. He's not on our level, but I'm glad to see him doing well. And if one of their players has got a score, I'm glad it was Willock. We did nearly get a fifth in injury time. Emil Smith-Rowe, who come off the bench and looked pretty bright. This one would have probably been the most popular goal of the night, but Dan Burn got back to knock it off the line. So it ends 4-1. It's another win, another dominant performance. And as for the league table, it's pretty much as you were, right? The City-Liverpool game in 2 weeks' time is looking more and more crucial, because none of us look like dropping points against the smaller teams at the minute. So I think that one is going to be a huge game. And the tough one for us is that I don't think we know what we want the result to be now. 3 weeks ago, I would have said, yeah, definitely want a Liverpool win. Now I'm not sure. I think it may be a draw might be the best result for us. Whatever, at least one of them is going to drop points. So on to the player ratings for the game then. David Raya, I'm going to give an 8. Thought he was really good. He had no chance with a goal. He made a couple of really good clearances outside his box when the ball dropped over our back line. There was about 2 crosses into the box. He took them comfortably. And he may even have an assist late on. But his through ball that was arrowing through to Trossard was blocked by the ref. So that might have robbed him of an assist. Ben White, I'm going to give a 7. I thought he had a reasonable game, but he did get skinned a couple of times against Isaac and Gordon. But overall, he was good. He was inverting well. He used the ball well. I thought it was a pretty decent performance from him. Saliba, I'm going to go 7. Calm and assured. He might feel he was a little bit out of position on the goal when Gabriel had to come across and cover. But overall, I thought he had a decent game. Gabriel, 8. Another dominant performance. He locked Isaac up completely. Used the ball well when he had it. Kiwior, I'm going to give a 7. He was solid and he got the goal. Jorginho, 8. They allowed him to run the game from the 6. There was never any danger. He was never having to put out any fires. And, in that situation, he's a very clever player. He's going to use the ball well. If you allow him to do that, he's going to pick you apart. And that's exactly what he did. Rice, I'm going to give an 8. That's now 10 goal contributions for him this season in the Premier League. That's more than he managed in any of his Premier League seasons for West Ham. And it's only February. Ødegaard, I'm going to give an 8. He wasn't at his magical best on the ball tonight or last night. There were a couple of passes that were a little bit overhit or didn't quite make the mark. But I don't know that I've ever seen anything like him when it comes to leading the press. In a team full of highly intelligent footballers, he's the mastermind. And to put on that pressing clinic when you are on a yellow card from 6 minutes in, that's something else, man. That is such a difficult thing to do. I thought it was another exemplary captain's performance, and I'm just loving watching him play. He's the best player in the country, and I just think it's fantastic watching him week in, week out. Martinelli, I'm going to give a 7. Thought he made some good runs. His run control and cutback from the goal was excellent. It's a real shame that cross from Saka was just that little bit high for the header, because that would have been a beautiful goal and something that he really deserved. Saka, I'm going to give a 9. He was my man of the match. I thought he was a thorn in Newcastle's side all game. He had the beat and the Livramento from the very first minute onwards. And what can you say? Another fantastic goal to cap off another excellent performance. Havertz, I'm going to give an 8. I thought he was excellent, great all-round performance, but still just that little bit of wasteful in front of goal. But I'm glad that he got the goal tonight. I think it's important that he does get his numbers. As for the subs, Trossard, I'll give a 6. I thought he was tidy enough without really affecting the game. As I said, with the Raya thing, he was kind of robbed of a really good chance when the ball hit the ref when he was away. Nelson, I'm going to give a 5. I don't think it was the greatest cameo from Reece. I think, like I said, I was really disappointed with the way he tracked back for the Newcastle goal. And I'd imagine his teammates and Mikel Arteta are going to be pretty disappointed with that as well. ESR, I'm going to give a 7. It's a shame that ball was cleared off the line. But he was neat and tidy when he come on. And in this sort of game where we're just dominating the ball, it's very easy for him to come on and slot in, because on the ball, he's as good as anyone in this team. Off the ball, I'm not so convinced, and I think if he does end up moving on in the summer, I think that's probably going to be the reason why. I'm just not sure he's switched on enough when we don't have the ball, but you can't fault him when he's in possession and when he's moving and creating angles for passes. And Ketia, I'm going to give a 5. He came on, the game was won. We weren't exactly bombing forward at that point, and he didn't really have much of an opportunity to get into the game. I do feel like sometimes when he comes on as sub, though, he doesn't do enough to get into the game. He just kind of goes through the motions, and that's kind of where I feel we were at with him yesterday. Mo Elneny came on in the 89th minute because Jorginho had gone down with the lesser seen double cramp. And I think Jorginho came off to get that ovation too, which he richly deserved. And Elneny come on to wander around the pitch for a minute for the 3rd time this season. More of that will do the same, because if Elneny's coming on, you know the game's won. So I'm quite happy with that victory formation. All right, guys, well, that's your lot for today. It's 8 days till we play again, but I'll be back with you on Tuesday to run through what's going on in the Arsenal universe. Until then, I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.